Hi, good morning. I'm here to welcome you. We're doing a talk today on human optimization. My name is Heidi Arens. I'm a nurse practitioner here at the Center for New Medicine. This is Dr. Roney, chiropractor, lifestyle specialist, and Liliana, who's a nutritionist. And we're here to have a conversation today about what it means to optimize our health. And what is human optimization? It's kind of a term we're starting to use more and more now in our culture. And it's an exciting term because it's really what we're passionate about and what really brought us each into healthcare. And so what we think of in terms of human optimization is how can we get you to the healthiest you can be at every stage of life, whether you're a young kid, a teenager, a young adult, you're mid-age, whether you're entering into elderly years. We just want to help you optimize your health. And so we want to take your health to the next level, find those areas that need to be fine-tuned or improved. And we can do that with the help of a team, and that's crucial here at our center. We can't do that single-handedly. And so we have amazing specialists that we utilize for each aspect of this. Dr. Roney he's a chiropractor, and he does a lot of nutrition work, lifestyle work, exercise. He helps to take you and fine-tune where those areas are. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about exercise as well as nutrition. How can we figure out what your body needs? And then how do we help you along that path? How can we engage with you to make you an active participant in this care and in this optimization? So Dr. Roney, I have a lot of patients who come to me and we'll do an initial intake, an exam. We'll look at some labs and say, okay, where do we need to start? And a lot of times I'm getting people who, anywhere along the spectrum of an athlete who's trying to take their athletic performance to the next level, or someone who's mid-age who's just so busy in their career raising a family that they have stopped exercising.
Right.
And they used to maybe be an athlete in college, but now they're at a point where they're so busy, how can they know they need to exercise, but it's daunting because they've kind of fallen off the wagon, and we're saying, okay, well, we need you to exercise. That's going to help your cholesterol. That's going to help your blood sugar. It's going to help improve circulation. It's going to help you sleep better. And they're going like, I just don't even know where to start.
Right.
So if you can walk us through, maybe that average person who's coming in knowing what they need to do, but they're having some difficulty getting back into an exercise plan that's going to work for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point. So one of the things that we see here, or the type of patient, is that they come to us probably because they're starting to feel discomfort. Maybe they're getting aches and pains. Maybe they're fatigued. They're just not feeling optimal, right? That's our typical patient here. And so what I tell them is before we can get them to exercise, we actually need to get the metabolic system functioning well. So there's a term we'll use called mitochondria. The mitochondria are what produce energy for the body. A lot of people, because of inflammation going on, because of things like blood sugar imbalances, cholesterol issues, autoimmune conditions, what have you, their bodies just aren't working well at a cellular level. So Heidi, as you know, one of your jobs is to evaluate that cellular level and then try to start fixing them from the inside out, right? So if we can get some of these conditions remedied and we get the cellular environment working better, the person's going to start to have better energy. So to me, that's step one, because you've probably been told you've got to exercise, like you were saying, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. Well, some people just can't will themselves to do it. Like I said, they have thyroid issues, they have blood sugar issues, they have autoimmune conditions creating the inflammatory response. So their body doesn't have the right chemistry. Adrenal fatigue, another one. So their bodies just don't have the energy to be able to exercise. So over my career, and you probably, Liliana, you've seen that as well, you can't tell somebody and will them to do it, right? So as a male, unfortunately, sometimes our brains work like, hey, just power through it, But as I've learned this whole cellular functional med concept, I've learned that is a big deal. We have to get step A right sometimes before we can get you to step B. So there is justification. So I always make sure I justify why you're not able to exercise. And so if we can get those steps done, and start getting you on the right protocols to get the cellular environment better, your energy levels will be better. Your joints will feel better. Your muscles will feel better, right?
And also I see too, given all those examples you just gave, recovery is a huge part of
Absolutely.
of the exercise process, because we can sometimes we can will ourselves to get through a Pilates class or kickboxing class or spin class or
But what
something.
about the next day,
But
the
then
2
the next
days later?
3 days you're just
Wiped out.
wiped.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
that's no way to live. And then you're
Right.
like, well, I don't want to do that again. So that's a big piece too.
Absolutely. And that comes back to that cellular environment. If that's going on, we know your mitochondria, your ability to produce energy at the cellular level is affected. But I'll make a point that I personally believe a mitochondrial dysfunction, or the ability to produce energy, is secondary. It's rarely a primary problem. So it occurs secondarily to a thyroid imbalance, right? Your adrenals, due to your stress, may be fatigued, right? You may have autoimmune conditions, chronic inflammation, diabetic situation that's creating that imbalance. So again, I know I've said this, but it's that part that we want to look at, the cellular environment, look at the labs, like Heidi said, get a starting point and start working you through those protocols. Now, once we can do that, now we're talking about optimal, I use the term optimal function of the body is going to lead to optimal performance. So when I'm working with an athlete versus just us, right? The common folk, right? Yeah. It's really the same concept to get my athletes functioning at a high level is the same concepts I'm going to use for us lay people to get to the same level. Now, their performance, they might want to be at a much different level, but they still have to have the cellular environment conducive for that constant energy and the constant recovery. So from an athletic standpoint, the recovery, Heidi touched on it, the recovery is the key, because if your body's working really, really well, you're going to do the performance, whatever that is, your athletic event, your workouts, whatever, but the next day you bounce back very, very quickly. When I see that in a person and or an athlete, I know cellularly they're doing really, really well, right? So specific to exercise, not to get long-winded like you know I can, specific to exercise, one thing I tell patients that we want to start them on is something called higher intensity, short burst exercise, if they can handle it. And even for a couple minutes. And what that means, quite simply, without getting into the technical part of it, is if I get my heart rate up and I'm huffing and puffing, right? And I'm breathing heavy, creating a little bit of a sweat over a short period of time, what that's proven to do, that's called high intensity exercise. What that's proven to do is increase things like dopamine in your brain, increase growth hormone, one of the major repair hormones in your body. It decreases inflammation. It helps your adrenal glands. I mean, the biochemistry and the list of things it does biochemically, cellularly to your body is phenomenal, which low intensity and moderate intensity exercise doesn't necessarily achieve those things. It has other benefits, don't get me wrong. But what I want to do is help change the cellular environment as quick as I can. So I recommend this short burst of high intense exercise. But like I said, for some people, maybe just a couple minutes a day, right? And that's it, because that's all they can handle. As we get their cellular environment better, they can handle more and more. So we're using this life hack, I call it, to be able to jumpstart this biochemistry. So to keep it simple, I'll go to the gym and I might get on a treadmill and just warm up for a little bit. And then I'll sprint for a minute, and then I'll jog for 30 seconds. Then I'll sprint, jog, and I'll do that for about 10 minutes. So the research shows 10 minutes achieves the same thing that 30 minutes will, as far as the biochemistry I just talked about, without the downside. Because you start doing 30 minutes of that, and over time, you could start depleting the adrenals. You could start creating inflammation. You could start having adverse effects. So I tell my patients 7 to 10 minutes, a few times a week, working up to 4, 5, 6 times a week of short burst, high intense exercise is one of the best things you can do, right? Now, that's a starting point. As the body gets better and better, then we want to start doing some light resistance training. You know, for the women out there, resistance training, bone remodels to stress. So if I stress my joints properly, there's a law called Wolff's Law, not to be too nerdy, but bone remodels to stress. So if I'm stressing my joints, nice light squats, some light lunges, some band exercises, resistance exercises, I'm going to be able to not only have my bones remodel properly, which reduces the chances for osteopenia and osteoporosis, but I'm also developing more lean body mass. And that lean body mass increases my metabolic rate. So muscle burns fat or burns calories twice the rate as fat. So when we start getting you into this higher intensity and we start to change your body from maybe a more fatty to a more lean body mass, now your body is just pumping out energy like crazy. Liliana will talk about intermittent fasting and the nutrition part and how to put that together as well with this exercise. So you have people like Heidi here who's really, and I do it too, but Heidi's really good looking at labs, looking at your metabolic function, working on that. And then you have somebody like me that can walk you through this exercise process. Then you have somebody like Liliana that can walk you through intermittent fasting and the nutritional part. And oh my goodness, I don't know that there's a better,
got the winning team right there.
a better way. So I'm gonna let Liliana take over. But if you have any questions regarding the exercise part, let me know, because everybody might start at a different place too, and that's an individual evaluation to figure out what you can and can't handle, and that's part of my job here. So.
And it's exciting, I'll say, just to see that progress in people.
Yeah,
phenomenal. They couldn't get out of bed, or they were depleted for 3 days after simple exercise. And as time goes on, as they start to build that lean muscle, they're detoxing a little bit, they're able to utilize oxygen better, their thyroid, adrenals are now working better. All of that's playing a role in cellular physiology. So as they feel better, they can do more and more.
Yeah.
And I see that progression every day with the people who are sticking with it. Small, simple, consistent changes every day is really what's making a difference.
I'll interject. It's a great point, because the story that a fable we grew up with is the tortoise and the hare. Do you remember that one? And the fable just goes that the tortoise just kept going steady, slow and steady, where the rabbit went hard and then soft, hard and then soft. And we see that. So somebody gets really into it and tries to go full steam ahead, and it's too much too soon. So what happens? We get discouraged because our bodies feel crummy. We get really tired. We get really achy and sore. And then we just go, I'm not doing it anymore. We've all seen that probably thousands of times, right? So that the idea is slow and steady is going to win the race. I've learned over my career in life, consistency, just a little bit each day, is going to allow you to build that layer and layer and layer. And so don't put too much on your plate early on. Stay light and easy and create that, oh, I achieved something today. And then maybe tomorrow, if you feel a little better, you achieve a little bit more. But don't go out of the gate like the hare, right? Going too fast, because it'll probably burn out. Let the process happen and give yourself that time. And I'll just say one more thing. Don't look at it like there's an end point. What I try to teach my patients is forget about weight loss, forget about anything. Look at health as the overall goal, because that goal is lifetime. That never ends. So you're always trying to achieve that better function and better health. And if you have that mentality, what should happen is the weight starts to easily come off. Your energy starts to get better. And all of a sudden, after, it could take months, but if you do slow and steady, it will get there, as long as you're under the right care and the right people, which we have, to be able to identify the problem areas and start cleaning them up. So slow and steady, and that consistency, what I've learned is the biggest detriment, quite honestly, even personally sometimes, right? But I see it patient after patient that they want it so fast, but it really doesn't work that way. So give yourself the time and the slow and steady, it will work. So, sorry.
It's that kind of New Year's resolution.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
We're April now, so we're in that almost first quarter of the year. It's gone already. Can you believe it?
I know.
But so anyone who's made a New Year's resolution that's already failed it, we're just inviting you to come back, and we're going to continue to guide you through that slow and steady progress. I see the same approach work the best for nutrition.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us have that. When we're on board with something, we go all out.
Yes.
And then we can sometimes have to pedal back a little bit, and if we fall off the wagon, we forget it. Oh, forget it. I'm totally done with my diet. I screwed up. Forget it. I'm just going to eat 2 bags of cookies now because I've already screwed up.
Right.
Or I'm just never going to the gym again because I just didn't go for 2 months. Well, we want to invite you back to that habit and literally build that foundation, and it becomes a habit, and we can always start over.
Absolutely.
We can always start over. And I see that recalibrate, great term. So the same goes for nutrition when we're trying to make these lifestyle changes. You know, we grew up and we were kind of told that mantra of diet and this exercise routine, and I think as a culture we kind of have adopted this all or nothing approach, but really what we need to kind of reinvent is this understanding of these small, simple, consistent changes over time are going to create a lifestyle that's sustainable.
That's right.
And that's going to create health over time. And so nutritionally, I see people who come into the clinic and they have certain goals that they want to achieve. They want to lose weight. They want to get rid of their inflammation. They have neck pain, back pain, joint pain, or they can't sleep well at night and it's just running them ragged. Or they have no energy to function optimally at work or at home or whatever stage of life they're in. They want more energy. And what I see pretty much across the board in everybody is that we all have some degree of nutrient deficiency, and we have some degree of dietary change that needs to happen. And so a lot of that is stemming from as we all know, our food supply and our food industry that's just highly dominant with processed foods, tons of sugar, too many carbs. And then now we're fed all this information about what's the best diet to eat. There's the keto camp and the paleo camp and then the vegan camp, and we're fed all this information. And what does this mean? How does the average person figure out what am I supposed to eat? Because they say I can't eat carbs, and they say I can't eat protein, and they say I can't eat fat. And it's confusing and kind of overwhelming. So what I see is just people who come kind of perplexed as to what do I eat every day? And what does my body need? And I think over time we've really come to understand nutrition is really personal.
Yeah,
and we have
very
different needs.
Too.
Yeah.
We have different needs for each stage of life.
Yeah.
We have every body has different nutritional needs. So there may be a good diet. Someone might thrive on a ketogenic diet and someone else may not. And someone may thrive on a vegan diet, someone else may not. So depending on the gut microbiome, maybe their genetics, there's different dietary requirements. And so I think what I love, Liliana, is that you have just a vast understanding of whatever this person needs. We can figure out the diet that's going to work for you, that's going to give you the nutrition you need. When we do nutritional intakes and nutri-evals and micronutrient testing, we can see where are those deficiencies. If you have, an MTHFR gene mutation, there are certain B vitamins that you need more of. Maybe your body isn't converting those nutrients into their most active form. Some people metabolically require vastly different blood sugar levels in terms of carbohydrate intake. Some people may have great insulin sensitivity and other people may not. So what we want to do is personalize it to you in this stage right now. What does your body need? So metabolically, we can look at all kinds of labs, nutritional evaluations to help us figure out where you might be deficient, or maybe you're getting too much of a certain food group. And then when you see patients, you can look at those evaluations and you can look at, the assessment of maybe I need someone on a paleo diet for several months. And then how can you help them navigate that? Because it's confusing, it's overwhelming, and we want to address all those physiologic needs, but then we also have the compliance piece, and we want to make food fun. Food is enjoyable. We're created to enjoy food and is social. So how can we kind of put all that together in a way that's manageable for someone?
Well, you kind of hit it on the nose there. I mean, diet is very personal, and it's a psychological and emotional thing as well. So I never try to change a person's belief system in regards of, if they want to be a vegetarian, I don't try to get them to eat meat, even though I might see that they may have more need for protein, but we will figure it out according to what they want, because everybody's belief system will get them well. If they don't want to eat those foods and I ask them to eat it, well, then we're really kind of running up against a brick wall. So I meet the patients right where they want to be on a philosophical level, because we have very educated patients, very well read. They have researched their diagnose, and so they come in already with some sort of a foundation. Now, sometimes I can uproot those, if it's necessary, and they're very open-minded, and to say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to optimize my health and to, decrease any inflammation or problems that I might have. So depending on the lab work that I see and the willingness of the patient, I really try to get them to see the big picture, but learn how to take little baby steps with it. And so, as you were talking earlier, there's many phases of our life that when we're children, we're growing, we need more protein. As we get more protein and carbohydrates, since sugar is the preferred fuel for the brain. And so again, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks are very much required for children because they're metabolically functioning so much more different than an adult. But as we age, we don't need as much. But again, food again is a very emotional thing, and we eat out of boredom, we eat out of frustration, we eat out of many things that has nothing to do with I'm hungry, right? So the first thing I do is I get patients to really identify, what their personal needs are. If they need weight loss, then obviously we're going to focus on all those foods that potentially are expansive and will, contribute with weight gain. So usually with those patients, I really get them off everything inflammatory, which is going to be the grains 99% of the time. Now again, when I tell patients I'm going to try to move you off of the grains, I've got to give you something to replace that, because nature absolutely hates a void. So when you come to see me, I might say, okay, well, we're not going to do grains, because one, they've got a lot of lectins in it, can create inflammation in the guts. They are very high in glucose. They just look at me, well, what am I going to make my sandwich with, or what am I going to make my tacos with, tortillas and things of that nature. So I always give them some replacement, whether it's the siete tortilla that's going to be 3 carbohydrates versus the 20 carbs, whether it's the, a bread made out of almond or coconut flour that's going to have really 1/3 of the glucose. They really are starting to discover a whole new way of shopping. They had no idea that these things existed. So my goal is to really educate the patient on what's available for them, how to make the best choices when they are at dinner parties or out to dinner, or even grocery shopping. You mentioned that our food is very, unfortunately, processed and chemicalized and devitalized. So I really try to get them to understand that, the cure is in the kitchen. It's not in a box. It's not in something. We have very busy lifestyles. I really understand that. But at the same time, I give them a lot of tips. We can use crock pots, and they can have their food cooking. When they come home, it's ready to rock and roll. So it doesn't need to be so difficult. As we start to age, we need less food, honestly. And so intermittent fasting is probably one of my greatest tools that I can use to metabolically fix someone if they have diabetes, if they have immunity issues, cancer, number one, and heart disease and things of that nature, is that we want to decrease the glucose as much as possible. And those are all foods in the carbohydrate family: vegetables, fruits, beans, and grains. Now, all good food in nature is good, right? But it may be too much load at one time on your plate. So I get them to understand that. So intermittent fasting is fabulous. Now, a lot of people will just mean intermittent fasting, nothing at all. And they're like, I can't do it, I'm so hungry. And so what I ask them to do is, rather than just going on water and feeling hungry and kind of muscle through it, and then having cortisol surge because they want to eat, but they're trying to get to 12 o'clock and before they eat a meal, is I have them break their fast with fat. Because fat doesn't stimulate insulin, so when insulin is not in your blood, you can still access fat for fuel and use it for energy. So maybe a bulletproof coffee that Dave Asprey highlighted in regards of utilizing it as a high octane drink, which is just your coffee if you drink it, or your matcha tea or your herbal tea. Add a tablespoon of brain octane or liquid coconut oil, and then maybe 2 tablespoons of some organic whipping cream, which is really a liquid butter. I find that it's a lot more delicious that way than putting how he has it with a tablespoon of grass-fed butter. Either way is good, but you're getting about 230 calories. So you've got all this fuel for the brain, which is great. So the body doesn't have to access your muscle, which is the next fuel that we'll go to. And then you're able to get a little longer of an intermittent fasting time from the time that you ate dinner all the way until you eat your next meal. So really you're optimizing your ability to use fat for fuel, which we all need to do that. Now I wouldn't recommend that for a child, but I would certainly recommend it for anyone that wants to lose weight, anyone that, is really kind of, in their, mid-20s on up. And as we age, as I said before, we know for sure that two things that age us quicker than anything is overeating, especially overconsumption of animal products, right? Too many calories, too much animal, too acidic, too much inflammation. So again, I think really optimizing is moving the grains out of the diet, putting something in its place. Even beans are great because they've got a lot of high fiber and they can be used as a vegetarian swap out for protein. Minimalize your cheese because cheese has got a lot of insulin growth factor in it. And for a lot of patients with immunity issues, it's high allergen. So I tell patients that they have to eat cheese, go to the better source, which is going to be goat or sheep, which is a smaller molecular structure. So if we can keep the grains out and keep some portion of beans in, as a vegetarian swap out, and very minimal cheese in the diet, lots of vegetables, maybe, 6 to 9 servings of, really leafy greens, and then of course cook both together. So I think really creating a rainbow of a plate of colors, not too much colors, more green than not, a small portion of protein, maybe animal protein once or twice a day at the most, and then making at least one vegetarian meal out of that. And then of course with the lifestyle, with the exercise and stress management, which is a whole nother subject, right? Then you can dial in pretty well and start achieving some of the goals that we all want, which is that vitality, because exercise alone won't do it. Diet alone won't do it. You need both.
Absolutely. And I think as times change and as all this new information is becoming more prevalent and easily available to people, I think if we can just encourage you to start thinking of 2 of the biggest changes you can do for your health long term throughout your entire lifespan is optimizing your diet, optimizing your exercise. Maybe you're working with a practitioner to help you kind of fine-tune things, but honestly, those 2 things alone are foundational for.
And we've heard it our whole lives, right?
I mean, it's always back to the basics.
Yeah, the fundamentals.
And so what we want to do is just help you on that journey, bringing you back to the foundation of health, getting you back to a place where you can sustainably exercise in a way that's going to serve your body. You're going to eat in a way that's going to serve your body. We want to customize everything to you and what your needs are. We want to work with you along this journey. But honestly, the foundations, if we were to just do those 2 things for you and get you on a plan that's going to work, it's unbelievable the results you're going to get. So
anti-inflammatory, we mentioned that, but that inflammation is the root of all disease, right? In my opinion, I think that Heidi and Liliana will agree, the number one way we probably inflame our bodies because of what the consistency of it is what goes in. So if we can understand an anti-inflammatory diet, we can work in intermittent fasting because the research is so overwhelming as to what that does, even for inflammation.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the exercise, starting with that high intensity, it doesn't have to start that way, but because of the biochemistry and what it does. So my advice to every patient that I see now are those 3 things: are your anti-inflammatory diet, your intermittent fasting, and your exercise high intensity. At least if we get started there, along with the other healthcare providers working on those metabolic issues you may have, it's a great start. So I just want to interject.
And when we start to see disease manifest, sometimes we'll have symptoms, nagging symptoms for years and years and years. And we might not have a diagnosis of a condition, but we have symptoms that are arising, and there are warning signs saying, hey, something's not right. Something's not right. There's one part of your body's having to compensate for another part that's just not working well. That's really our job, is to figure out where those things are. And 9 times out of 10, when we come back to the basics, and we get sleep, and we reduce stress, and we eat well, and we optimize this intermittent fasting, which is phenomenal for so many people, for so many different reasons. And
Yeah.
when we start to get the body moving again, all these basics start to fall back into place, and we start to see little disease disappear.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
Symptoms start to go away.
Yeah.
We get the big rocks fixed, and all of a
Right.
sudden these collateral issues start to disappear without
Right.
necessarily
Yeah.
addressing them specifically. But
And that may help you not develop the disease.
Right.
If you have the disease, we want to help you reverse that process. But we also want to work with those people who they have a symptom, but they don't have a disease. And we don't want you to get to that
that's right.
diagnosable level and just throw a pill at it. We want to say, okay, there's warning signs of some metabolic dysfunction going on. And if we don't fix it, it'll turn into something dangerous.
Yeah.
So we want to find those things, work with you to reverse them and prevent them. And
Get you on the right
and
road
get you
to
back
health.
on the
Yep.
right road. Exactly. So thank you for your time. Thank you for spending some time with us to learn more about how you can optimize your health. We're here to help you, serve you, get you back on that road to optimal health, and let us know if we can work with you. We'd love to each work with you, and we love being a part of a team to help you on that journey. So thank you, and take care.